Nite Callers, Bigfoot Radio.
You're listening to Nite Callers Bigfoot Radio. It is October 9th, 2019, and you are here with your hosts, Lauren Smith and Dustin Clark. How are you doing tonight, Dustin?
I am doing fantastic. How are you doing, Lauren?
I'm great. A little bit nervous, not going to lie. I'm going to go ahead and just throw that out there. We are, this is our first show back and Dustin's first show altogether, and so we are going to do our best to bring you guys an awesome show, but just know that we're a little nervous tonight. We'll get into the groove of things, but tonight we have Laurie as our guest, and so just for everyone tuning in that isn't on Facebook, just in case you're not on Facebook and you're listening to this, so we are very excited to have Dustin Clark on as our new Nite Callers Bigfoot Radio co-host. He is going to be amazing. We are looking forward to getting to know his interviewing style and his investigative strategies, how he picks people's brains. We are sad but excited to announce that Laurie is resigning from the show. She is embracing her retirement in totality. She is going to get back in the field and start researching again. She's wanted to do this for a long time but was unable to because she worked full-time. And so now that she's able to get back out in the field, she's going off of the show. Dustin's coming on, and we look forward to bringing you an awesome show put on by us, and hopefully have Laurie back on after this show sometime with some brand new evidence and experiences to share with us. So we're going to go ahead, and Dustin, if you don't have anything interesting Bigfoot-wise to add, we'll just go ahead and bring Laurie on, and we'll just get her started.
Yeah, I just want to say real quick, thank y'all for having me on, and it's an honor that y'all chose me to be a co-host.
Yeah, no, we are honored to have you on. I think you're going to do a great job, and I am really, really, really excited to have you helping me out with this show. I can't wait. So.
Well.
Okay, so Laurie, are you there?
Yes, I am, and I just want to say it's weird to be on this side, but I'll do the best I can. And I just want to say that I think you made an excellent choice in choosing Dustin, because once he gets warmed up, he's going to be excellent. And I just really feel like this show is really going to move on up, like the Jeffersons. It's just going to move on up.
Absolutely.
I have been kind of sad and melancholy because, it has been 10 years that we've been doing Nite Callers, or almost 10 years. And it's really, really hard sometimes to just let go of something that you have so much control over, control freak in me. But at the same time, it's a relief, because I've been wanting to move on and start doing more in the field. When I worked and was doing the show, I didn't have time to do field research. All I did was hung out a parabolic dish and did just only recordings. And so now this should give me more time to get out in the field. So
absolutely. Absolutely. You know, it's semi-sweet. It's, you know, how excited I am to have Dustin on and have him he's like a breath of fresh air. He has this passion, and he is so excited to come on the show and bring us all these new topics, everything. You know, that's amazing. And it's rejuvenating to me, and it's motivating, but it's also bittersweet because, you know, Laurie and I have had this for 10 years now. We've had this show, and it's just been our thing, and we've kept it going for 10 years. And so it's bittersweet, but also I am so excited for you to go and research and, you know,
well, you know, over the last 10 years, we've had a lot of amazing researchers on our show, and they all have some really great ideas and different techniques they use, and I'm just biting at the bit to try these techniques. And I've been making notes all this time saying, I'm going to try this, I'm going to try this. So now I'm going to get out there and try it. And it's gonna be great. It is going to be great. But I will be y'all's number one fan. I will listen to every single show, and I will share your show every week. So all you listeners out there, thank you for all your support and all your love. Oh, my gosh. Over the last few months, we really realized how much people out there loved us. And so we thank you for the love, and we're so glad that we're going to continue on. And thank you to Dustin for that, because I wasn't ready to go on anymore. I mean, it was time.
Right.
So
anyway. I was definitely wanting to take the show to a whole nother level, and it was timed perfectly that that Laurie wanted to embrace her retirement and Dustin wanted to come on. And so we are really excited to bring you guys a whole next level show now. And we hope you guys enjoy what we have to do, because just a heads up, I know that we have been, in the past, we've been strictly Bigfoot mostly. We haven't really branched out much. Just a heads up to our listeners, we are going to be branching out a little bit more this season into other cryptids. So if you have a cryptid, and specifically if you have a researcher of that cryptid that you think would be great on our show, and you want to learn more about that cryptid or hear it on our show, feel free to message us at any point and just say, hey, I really want to hear more about the rake. I want to hear more about the rougarou, the chupacabra, the wendigo, whatever you want to hear about, we are open and we want to cover those as well. Also, if you have a good Bigfoot researcher or Bigfoot organization, a new book out, a new conference, we are all about promoting within the community and getting those names out there. So just kind of feel free to message us at any point and let us know. And we are really excited to have Laurie on for our first reboot of Nite Callers, as a tribute to her, because this show would not be what it is today without all the hard work she has put into this show. You guys have no idea how much has gone into this show, how much hard work, how much time she has sacrificed to this show. To keep it going, and without her, the show we wouldn't be able to carry on her legacy. So, as a tribute to her, we would like for her to share her favorite experiences. So she's going to share how she got into Bigfoot, her first experience, her most terrifying experience, and then from there she'll share any favorites that she has, if we have time. And so we just really want to have her share those, and then bring her back after she's been out researching, and have her share brand new experiences with us. So, Laurie, how did you get interested in this topic?
Well, I moved to East Texas in 1990, and but it wasn't until I moved to a camp community on Lake Sam Rayburn that I started to have some experiences. But I will be the first to tell anyone that I did not believe in Bigfoot. I never watched a Bigfoot show. I wasn't like a lot of our listeners and guests that had been interested in the subject their entire life. I absolutely did not believe in. I thought it was ridiculous, to be honest. And so anyway, we were in 1999. We were out on a pontoon boat. It was probably about 4 o'clock in the morning, and I had worked the night shift. They picked me up at the boat ramp, and we were out there. And at first, I heard off in the distance a bunch of coyotes. While I was listening to them, we were all fishing. Then I heard this long howl that ended in a roar, like a lion roar. And I instantly just prickled up all over it. I thought, what in the world is that? I know of nothing that can howl and roar. And it just made me so uncomfortable. I said, let's go. We're not catching anything. Let's go. So, those party barges, they don't go that fast. It just seemed like I just thought it was going to jump into the lake and swim after us. And we got back to the boat ramp. I was still on edge. And I didn't even know why. I think it was because it was so powerful, what I had heard, that I didn't know what it was. When we got to the boat ramp, of course, when they got there that afternoon, they didn't have any place to park but way up there at the top of the parking lot. So I had to walk across that long, lonely parking lot at 4 o'clock in the morning with that fresh on my mind. And I was just like, it's going to come through the woods and get me, because this was not very far from where we heard it. Well, anyway, I get the truck and I go back, we hook on and everything like that, and I'm starting to feel more relieved until we get to where we live, and I realized that sound came from very close to where we live. Actually, closer than the boat ramp was. So I was very nervous about that because I didn't know what it was, but it instantly put fear in me. And so anyway, that was in 1999, 98 or 99, and I will be telling y'all now, I cannot remember dates, years very good. I've had 20 years of stuff, and so I'm going to say approximately, it's like I know the exact day and month and year of my first sighting and my last sighting, and the rest is like, I think it was this date or, so I will say that. But anyway, during this time, we were having things like we would hear something walking around our house at night, and it was very dark out there. We had no street lights. The backyard was pitch black. Anybody that could walk around out there with all the things they could fall over, and nobody ever fell over anything. And even my husband would say, there's somebody walking around out there. And also we heard wood knocks, which at the time we didn't know they were wood knocks. We just heard somebody out there banging boards together. And we also heard strange calls coming from the woods. And this went on for years, and I never put anything together. Well, then in May of 2000, I found a program on – we just got a computer, and I found a talk program called Pal Talk. And I went into the Gulf Coast Bigfoot Research Room, and that's where I met Bear and Kumbo and Vicky and Dan and Kelly and all these people. And when I realized that they were talking about a real Bigfoot, I was just laughing. Of course, at that time I did not have a mic. All I was doing was texting. But then I realized when they started talking, all the things that they were talking about were actually happening to me. And I thought, well, maybe there's something to this. So I started looking around. I started getting out in the woods and looking around. And I started having things happen when I was out there. the first thing I noticed when I started going out there was when I walked into the woods, I would hear a wood knock. And when I walked out of the woods at the same location, I'd hear another wood knock. And this was every time. It was really weird. Another thing, too, was my little dog would not go with me. She would go the other way. She wouldn't come with me. And when I was going down that trail, I would smell urine, or I would run into that invisible wall, you know, the infrasound. And, excuse me, let me get a drink here.
Mm-hmm. Laurie is getting over some bronchitis type stuff, so if she has to stop, she may have to stop and drink some of her honey tea there, and
honey tea, yeah.
Just bear with us, bear with us. The material that she's bringing on tonight is more than worth having to take a break every now and then.
Another thing that I felt when I was going out there is many times I felt like I was being watched. And I would always go out during the day, never at night, that I was continually going a certain route. I would go to the lake, and then sometimes I would go right or go left and go up and down the trails. There's some beautiful trails there, beautiful woods. And so, but anyway, man, give me a second. I'm so sorry.
It's okay.
It's fine.
It's okay. She's doing this on purpose, everybody. She's cliffhangers, okay? Keep you on the edge of your seat.
Well, anyway, one day I was walking down the trail, and, of course, my little dog went the other way, and she would always meet me back at the trailhead that led out to the neighborhood to my house. And she would always be right there, but she would never come with me. And I thought, you know, I just never realized that was unusual for a dog to do that. But she just would never go with me. And so on this one particular day, I noticed that there was a small animal skull on the trail. So I picked it up and I looked at it. I set it back down and went on. Well, then the next day, the animal skull was gone, and there was a feather there. And this was a really, really nice eagle feather, probably 6 or 8 inches long. And so I was like, oh, cool. So I stuck it in my hair like an Indian, you know. And I went on. Well, then the next day, I went down, there was another feather. It was a blue heron. And I'm like, oh, let's stick that in my hair. And by the end of 2 weeks, I had a handful of feathers. So I started just, and here's dumb me. I was thinking it was just weird that, I did think it was strange that I was finding all these feathers, but I thought maybe it was just a gathering area for birds or something. I never thought that it was the Sasquatch leaving them. And so I had these feathers, and I displayed them on my porch. And every day I would find another feather, or every other day, you know. So anyway, this went on. I'm checking my notes here. Okay, and then also another thing, I was recording, and I was using an old Radio Shack recorder, the cassette kind, and every 30 minutes I would wake up and flip it, and I would record all night long, and then on the way to school, I was going to college at the time, I would listen to the recording and see if I got anything. Well, what I noticed was it sounded like something was coming up to the window, my bedroom window. And so you could hear it walking, and then it sounded like it plopped down. So, oh my gosh, I think I'm going to have a good one. Hold on just a second. So,
I feel like we need to have some
decided I had one of these old-timey game cameras, the kind that had this is how long ago it was, like 20 years ago. I had one of those that had a little camera inside that used 35 millimeter film, right? So I was trying to catch whatever it was that was coming up to that window. So I would disguise it, hide it. I knew you shouldn't have me on as a guest. But anyway.
Yes, I had to talk her into being a guest on our show. I mean, honestly.
Just until I got over this mess. But anyway, I never could catch it. You know, either there were pictures of sticks being wagged in front of the camera, or a bunch of sticks were in front of the camera, which there was no tree there where I had it hid, or the camera would be flipped over on its face, where it'd take like 6 or 7 shots of the ground, and I wouldn't know what I had till I took it to Walmart, all excited to find out I didn't get nothing. So I learned pretty quick that game cameras don't really work. And so then it was one night, it was raining. And it was just like a misting rain, but it was just enough where it was dripping off the roof and hitting the ground outside that window in my bedroom. And I had my back to the window. The window was open, and there was just a screen, and I was probably about 2.5 feet away from that window with my back to it. And I heard something walk up, and all of a sudden that rain dripping off the eave was hitting something else. It wasn't hitting the eave anymore. It was hitting something closer. And I heard breathing. And I'm like, oh, my God. It's standing there at that window. And I was just froze. I could not move. I wanted to turn around and slam the window down and pull the shade and close the curtains. And I wanted to do it, but I couldn't move. I was froze. And I could barely hear him over my heart in my ears as it go boom, 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 boom. And I just kept thinking, he could reach to that screen and grab me. He's just 2 feet away from me, you know. He could reach and grab me and yank me right out the window. And it seemed like he stood there for the longest time, but it probably was only maybe 5 minutes. And everyone said, why didn't you turn around? You could have seen one. Because at that time, I'd never seen one. You could have seen it. Why didn't you turn around? I didn't want to see what was behind me. I decided that I didn't want to see it. I didn't want to see it at all, and especially not that close. And so, anyway, finally, I heard the rain hitting the ground again, and I never heard him leave. I never heard him step on anything or his foot falls like I did when he arrived. And he was gone. And when I got my resolve, I turned around and I slowly closed that window and I pulled that shade. And so anyway, it was during this time that I actually went on my first Bigfoot outing, and it was in Witch Dance, Mississippi, and I went with Bear and Vicki and Kelly, and it was just a few of us that went, but it was my actual first time to ever go, and we found a track, and I got to see somebody cast a track for the first time, and it was really cool. I loved it. But anyway, let me see. Okay. All right. When my neighbor would see me going off into the woods, he would say to me, what you going in there for? And I said, oh, I'm just walking. And he's going, well, you need to be careful. And I said, okay. He's going, no, you really need to be careful. You don't know what's in there. And I said, well, just wildlife, right? Well, you don't know what's in there. And that's what he'd tell me. And then it was the same individual that came across the street and saw all the feathers. It said, you know, the game warden will haul you off to jail. You have got eagle feathers there. And I said, okay, I'll put it in the house. So I did. But all this happened, and then it was Labor Day weekend, and there were a lot of people in the neighborhood. This neighborhood, maybe only 13 of the houses people actually lived in full time. The rest were holiday houses for people in Houston. And so there were a lot of people up from Houston, a lot of four-wheelers blazing up and down the road. It was really, really busy. So I didn't think anything. The last thing I expected to do to have was my first sighting. It was about probably 11 or 12 that night, and things had calmed down, pretty quiet. And I was on the telephone, and I let my dog out for the last time, and I was hearing across the street was the woods that I would walk in every single day. And I do want to say this, that there were many, many times that I felt from those woods that something was watching me, and I thought it was a person. So I'd gotten to where I closed all my curtains on the front of my house at night because I felt like I was being watched. And so anyway, I'm out there. I'm not having that feeling, but I am hearing something growling. And I'm thinking, I keep hearing this continuous, over and over, and it just will not stop. And I'm thinking, what is that? And at the time, Lake San Rayburn was very low. There were some low spots in the lake. It hadn't had a lot of rain. And I thought maybe it's a boat stuck up on the sandbar or something. Maybe that's what it is. And so anyway, the person I was on the phone with was a Bigfoot researcher, and he said, go get your spotlight. So I went and got the spotlight, and he said, now pan the wood line. And so I did. The growling was coming from the cane patch. It was directly across from my house. And I spotlighted it and didn't see anything. But then when I went down, I had gone all the way over to the people's house that lived catty corner across the street there. They weren't home. And I didn't see anything. But on the outer ring of the spotlight, I saw something move. So I whipped it back, and that's when I saw him. And he was standing next to a pine tree, and he was just had his head bent down because the light was so bright. It was like a 2 million candle spotlight. And so he turned his face away and had his eyes closed, and he just kind of ducked down. But I got a good look at him, and I was just shocked. I was just in shock, and I just, all I kept saying was, oh, my God, over and over and over and over. Just, it was like I couldn't say anything else. Well, anyway, the next day, we went out there and looked, and sure enough, right there next to that pine tree was a very worn area. And I think he was the one that was standing there watching the house. And also there was a very, very strong, horrible smell. I had never smelt it since, but it was like a mixture of puke and excrement and musk and urine, and it was just putrid. And we searched the area trying to find the source of it and could never find it. I don't know. It was just like permeated everything in that area. And it was like that all day. And then finally go ahead.
Were you able to see what color the hair on it was?
Yes. He was reddish. It's like an Irish setter red. And
did he have?
He had a reddish brown hair.
Did he have very much hair on his face, or was it pretty much skin?
No, it looked like it was mainly more skin. He did have quite a bit of hair on his face, but it seemed like around his eyes and around his mouth, he didn't have a lot of hair. And his hair was very short, and he was built like a basketball player. He was not bulked out at all. He was long and lanky. And
did y'all by chance measure how tall he was?
Yes, we did. And that was an odyssey, to tell you the truth, because he was standing behind a 6-foot yopon bush, but yet he was quite a bit from like the rib cage up was still, above it, or maybe even more than that. May have been like to the belly up. So we were trying to gauge how tall he was, and my friend was holding a hat up, but I couldn't see it past the tree. I said, "You're going to have to hold it up higher. I have to hold it up higher." So finally we got a PVC pipe, and she held it up, and I said, "There," because his head was right at that knot, 11 foot.
Wow.
And a lot of people will not believe that he was 11 foot, but he was 11 foot tall. So that was hard for me to believe, actually, because if someone had asked me how tall I thought he was, I would have said 8. I'm no good at that kind of thing. But he, I would have thought 8 foot tall. But according to that, if you measured from the ground up, unless he was, I don't know what he could have been standing on, and he was that tall. And anyway, I never had another encounter with him. I believe that after I spotlighted him, he was, he left. He never did come back. I never felt him over there or anything else, Also, I had very little activity around my back window anymore either. So I'm kind of thinking that might have been him. Some people say, well, he was wooing you, and some people were telling me, stay out of the woods, and that kind of thing. But at that time, we didn't know about gifting. Gifting was something that we just didn't know much about. And so when I was having that happen, nobody had anything to pull from on that. So all of my sources were unable to help me there, So anyway, after that, it was let me see. Well, previous to that, we had the Boykin Springs outing. It was my first time to ever host an outing, and it was in an area that had never been researched, and they had a sighting there. The first car saw 2 Bigfoot standing in the road, and they went different directions. Well, we saw one of them running through the woods. They were spotlighting it as it was running through the woods, so that was actually my first kind of sighting. That it wasn't definite, but, But they claimed that one of them was 12 foot tall. Now, these are 2 guys that had been doing it for a long time, and they claim it's the biggest one they've ever seen. So, but it was also on that outing that one of the guys nearly got grabbed. We were at one area, and they were making calls, and things got really stinky, and he was the caller, and he almost didn't make it in the vehicle. He claims that one tried to grab him. I was there, and I saw him getting into the vehicle very quickly, and with the indoor lights and all, I could see his face, and he looked very disturbed. But I didn't see anything try to grab him, but of course it was pretty dark, So,
yeah.
But it was also that place that we revisited, and on one occasion, I was standing at the edge of the woods, and I actually got bluff charged. And it was the first time I'd ever been bluff charged. And I want you to know that will scare the crap out of you, because you hear this thing coming through the woods like a bull elephant, and it's coming in such a rush. And I don't know if it's making vocalizations at the same time, but it just sounds like this tremendous loudness coming at you. So I backed up and jumped in the vehicle. Well, I stayed in there for a little bit and breathed real hard and got calmed down, and I said, I'm going to try it again. So I got out and went to the edge of the woods. It wasn't 2 or 3 seconds. Here it come again. Did it to me 3 times. After that, I said, I don't know if my heart can take this. You know, it just, I was trying to stand there and see if I could stand there and see what it would do if it would actually stop. But I couldn't make myself stand there. I couldn't. It was like it just, at the closer it got, when it got within 10 feet of me, I was out of there. I just couldn't. I just wanted to see if it would, if I could outbluff it. But it was just not possible for me. I just couldn't do it.
Fight or flight. It'll get you every time.
Yeah. After I had that sighting, it was like it was a couple of years later that February, I think it was around Valentine's Day, I was on the phone and I saw one come out of the woods right next to my house and then go back into the woods and hit the trail and run. And I couldn't believe what I was seeing because it was like bright in the broad afternoon. And I said, I cannot believe I'm seeing this. And he or she, I don't know, it looked like a gentleman in a coverall, except it was hair. And he was only about 6 foot tall, and he had kind of a pot belly on him. He was kind of more round and not the basketball kind like the first one. And what they were doing was, our neighbor that lived over on the other street, their freezer had broke down, so they had burned all their rotten meat and stuff on a burn pile. And it was hitting that burn pile and getting that meat out of there. And but it was coming through the woods right next to my house. There was a little trail in there, and it hit that trail and then making a little trail through the next woods, cross the street, and he could do it, and nobody ever would see him. You know, nobody would ever be looking that way. It just was the craziest thing. So he was the second one. And then during that time, a lot of things started happening. We were getting them running across the roof, banging on the house, and it wasn't the one, I don't know if it's the one I saw or just a bunch of juveniles or things like that, but it was like the whole place had gone crazy. And I started inviting people because I didn't think anybody would believe me unless they came down there and saw for themselves. Well, they did. They saw for themselves, and they were like, you've got some stuff going on here. Well, we had I feel like I'm just kind of rambling, but they had this thing where when they would vocalize, and I think we talked about this at camp this last weekend, where they would vocalize whenever a jet went over, or if there was a loud boat out on the lake, or if there was a car making a lot of noise, or it seemed like you would hear the vocals in there with them, with the noise, and that's what they would do. And it was frustrating for me because I was trying to get a recording of them, but it was hard to pull them out of you could hear them in there with the jet, but it wasn't a clear, pristine recording. And so anyway, I started knocking, and they would knock back, and I was imitating them, and they would never answer me back, but they would knock back. But then it got to where they started changing their vocalization. Instead of doing one thing, they started doing another thing, and then eventually they just quit vocalizing. And then I would hear them knock in the wee hours of the morning. They quit knocking. They quit returning my knocks. It's like I felt like I totally messed them up. And I was interfering in their communication, and they changed things and all, and I just really felt kind of bad about that. But sometimes during the day or night, it sounded like the forest was just being destroyed. Like something was out there just tearing it up. Just branches breaking and all this racket. But then you would go out there and couldn't find a stick out of place. And this happened numerous times. And, I mean, I could hear this from my house. Not in the house, but when I was outside. I could hear it coming from just at the edge of the forest. And yet there wouldn't be anything. I expected to find branches laying around, broke trees, but I never found anything. It was very strange. So, anyway, in March of 2003, we had found an area that was on the edge of Upland Island Wilderness. And it was between, we called it the land between the bridges, because there were two bridges there, and there were two creeks. And it looked like a great place to go on the topo map. You know what I'm talking about there, Dustin? You know, you see that, wow, this place ought to be pretty good, because this creek forks right here. And so, excuse me, lady.
You're a trooper.
So we went there several times, and we had activity. We felt like something was coming up, and we saw eye shine. We'd hear movement, stuff like that. So we thought it was like a really great place. So we went there and set up, and we had our microphones on top of our cars and all that. We were just kind of milling around, and one of the girls did this like weird call. Am I still here?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
We can hear.
My phone, the light went off, and I thought, oh, maybe I hung up. But anyway, she did this weird. She did this. You know, she was just playing around. She just did this like weird call, and I was like, what is that? And she's going, I don't know, a bawling cow. And I go, yeah, that's what it sounds like, a bawling cow, you know. And so we were laughing about it. Well, it was maybe 10 minutes later, we heard the first howl. And it comes from the north of us. And we heard it, and then we heard another one closer, then another one closer. And within 45 seconds, we were surrounded, and it was just everywhere. It was like this deafening chorus of howls. You know, it was just, and I don't know how to explain it. It was terrifying. It was absolutely terrifying. We got into the vehicles, and we couldn't get into the vehicles fast enough. And the girl that I was with, she went ahead and started up her vehicle and turned on the lights. And we couldn't see anything. And they still howled like that for a little bit. Then they just went quiet. Well, you know, everybody was arguing. You know, I was trying to get my recorder back in. I got the mic in, but left the recorder on top, and it was shutting the door. The cord was. And I was trying to mess with it, and you hear doors slamming. And the people the people in the other vehicle, they were arguing over who was going to get out. They had theirs on a tripod, and who was going to get out and get it. And finally, I think one of them got out and got it, and then we left the area. But we were pumped. Our adrenaline was up. We were like, what in the hell happened? What just happened? But anyway, I have that recording if you want to play it. The very last part, I had to bring the volume down because it was so loud with the door slamming and there's cuss words in there. I'll warn you now. I'm sorry. But you know how it is when you get out there and you're all freaked out. And some people will say, well, that was just a bunch of coyotes. Well, I've never known coyotes to sit around a bunch of people and scream at them. I just don't. Mm-hmm. And we were surrounded on three sides. It was coming from three different directions. I don't know if we got right in the middle of a rumble or what happened, but from the first howl, it was like 45 seconds they were on top of us. So
Okay, what's the name of the clip?
This is Expedition.
Okay, so I'm going to play it. It's 2.5 minutes, everyone. I'm going to play it, pause, and then do you think I should play it again?
I don't know. You know,
I mean,
I'll
okay,
let y'all
I'll play
decide.
it, and then we'll see if we need to play it again for everyone to catch it again.
Okay.
Turn your speakers down a little bit because it does get loud.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, here we go.
That was the first call.
Yeah. That's 2. No.
Shut my mic cord up in here. I know it. This alley is. They don't like my heart, do they? Nope. Oh, I can't. I still do. I can't roll my window because of the cord, but I guess I can do it. I'll just do it. Well, it was.
Okay, so I just want to say that really hits home for every researcher listening. Like, just picture you're out in the middle of nowhere, you've done some calls, and then the woods light up around you, but not just around you. They light up on all sides, and then they come in. It's all coming in closer and closer and closer. And so for some seasoned Bigfoot researchers to just straight up jump in the truck and grab their stuff, leaving half of their equipment outside of the truck, trying to get it inside. I mean, it got real hairy real fast. That is one of my favorite clips. It's one of my favorite clips that my mom had.
My biggest regret was getting in the vehicle. I should have stayed out we should have stayed out to see exactly what would have happened. But within just a minute or so, it went dead quiet. You felt like there was still. And the recording didn't really come good over the phone, I don't think. Maybe it'll sound better on when we upload the show, but
it does. It usually sounds better over the air than for anyone listening in over the phone. It doesn't sound as great. But I think every Bigfoot researcher feels that way. You jump in the truck because in the moment you feel that heavy feeling, that fight or flight.
Oh, yeah.
Holy crap, it's getting real. I feel uncomfortable. I need to get safe. And then later you're like, dang it, I wish I would have just sat there and stuck it out. You know, I think everyone feels
exactly.
that.
It's the what if. It's the what if I had, And, of course, I'd only been doing it a couple of years, and I was already, called stupid and too
Crazy.
brave to, yes,
Mm-hmm.
she doesn't have any fear, she's going to get killed. And I was already catching that from a lot of people. But it was, I felt like when I was the last person out there, I said, well, I'm not standing out here by myself. And so I got in too. And it was just so loud. And now I will say that I just had a regular Radio Shack mic, just a regular stock mic, no bionic ear, nothing else. So it would have been, I would have killed to have a bionic ear at that time. That would have been just so great. But it was just a chorus of screams, and then some of them sounded like coyotes to me, but I don't think they were, because I've never known a pack of coyotes to come in on people like that from three directions. So it was on three sides of us, from behind us, in front of us, and on the other side, and it was just all at once. It was probably the most terrifying, I would have to say, one of the most terrifying nights I've ever. It took me a long time to go to sleep that night. That was just.
I bet
That
has
just
always
really
been
something.
that has always been one of my favorite clips, because it just starts out, you hear a little howl, and then it's just the woods light up and it's all around you, and then they get closer and it just like closes in on the mic, and it just has always just been my favorite clip that you have, because it really brings home, like, man, you think you're brave. Like, there's so many people that really think they're brave until they get out there and it's pitch black and you can't see past the nose on your face, and you're just standing there, and anything could be standing there watching you 5 feet away, and you don't know it's there. And then all of a sudden, the woods, you do a call, the woods light up, and the experiences I've had, it's been some howls that were not coyotes, and then the coyotes light up afterwards, but then I don't know, this is why we do what we do. Like, it's an adrenaline thing. Like, we're adrenaline junkies, you guys. We have an issue. We do. But
most Bigfoot researchers are adrenaline junkies.
Yeah, we are. Yeah, I mean, we're out there doing things, and we're not getting paid to do this. We're not getting any recognition for it. We're doing it to figure out what's out there and experience it, and collect all the data that we can to bring back and say, is this a thing or not? And people think we're crazy, and you know what? I can't really argue with them, you guys. We are nuts.
Especially after you listen to that recording, No
kidding. And everyone's like, oh, yeah, wow, that was a bunch of coyotes. Like, even if it was just coyotes on that recording, can you picture it, everybody, close your eyes. Get real quiet. Picture standing out in the middle of the woods in the pitch black, in the middle of nowhere, no cell phone signal. You're in the middle of nowhere, and the woods are doing that right on top of you. Like, whether it's coyotes or Bigfoot, it is freaking terrifying, okay? Your adrenaline's through the roof. You're shaking. I mean, it's terrifying. That's one of my favorite
gentleman that was with us was a member of that Texas TBRC or something like that, and he had, he had boxes and boxes of casts. He'd been doing this for a long time, and after that, he got out of it. I don't know if it was because of that, or he met somebody and changed, or what. I don't really know if this had anything to do with what happened, but he just fell off the radar. I never heard from him again, never saw him again. He just, I guess that was it for him. Too much, or either that or he got into something else. I don't know. But I never saw him again. So in April of 2004, I was in the process of moving to Booger Hill, where I live now, and it's a cabin in the river bottom south of Nacogdoches. And a few days before I left, I'd always been doing the ooh-wah call, ooh-wah, I was always doing that call. And a couple of days before I left, I was packing my car, and I heard it out there in the woods. And they did it twice, and I'm like, oh, my God, I've been trying to get them to call back to me. And they finally did, and it was like it made me cry. I was so emotional over that because I thought it's my farewell. And I didn't want to leave. I didn't want to leave that place. I love those woods. I love those trails. I love the activity I was having because it was the hottest place on the planet. There was always something going on there. And I'd had 2 sightings there, and I got all kinds of cool vocals, and I loved it. I didn't want to leave there. And it was about 5 years after I left, they went in and logged it and tore it to smithereens. You couldn't find a trail in there to save your life. It was not even the same. I went back there, and I couldn't even feel a Sasquatch in the place. It was just devastating. It was devastating. I couldn't even find my way to the lake. It was that bad. It was that destroyed. Yeah. So I felt really bad about that, really bad. But this moving to Booger Hill was, it was a treat for me because there were no busy roads, no neighbors, no interruption. It was quiet. There was, it was peaceful and it was loaded with wildlife. And I lived out here by myself. And a lot of people say, "How could you do that? How could you live out there by yourself? Aren't you scared?" And I never really was scared.
I was. I would just like to interject here, being her daughter. I would just like to add, she's like, "Oh, I lived by myself in this quaint little renovated log cabin. It was so peaceful and amazing." Y'all don't understand. This woman has like a personal grudge for some reason against curtains. So the entire house never had curtains. She is living in the middle of the woods in her home with no curtains, okay? So you are in the bathroom and you just know. No, it's not funny. I don't know why you're laughing at my traumatized childhood, okay? You're in the bathroom and you just know you're about to have a Boggy Creek moment. Something's about to reach through the window and snatch you off the commode. Okay, it is traumatizing. And to this day, she finally added curtains, but they're sheer. But you know what? I'll take it. But for the longest, so she's like, "Oh yeah, I moved to this house and it's peaceful and all this." Y'all, no curtains, okay? Like it's.
It was wonderful. I really liked it because, see, I had neighbors at the other place, and a lot of times they would get on the recordings, and I'd have to determine if it was a human making that noise or if it was a wood knock or somebody slamming around lumber, You just never did know. But see, at least out here, I knew there was nobody nearby, nobody. And so I knew anything that I heard was probably wildlife of some kind. So I decided I would start fresh, and I would act ignorant, like I didn't know anything about Bigfoot, and because I remembered how I had changed their behavior by being so much of a pain in the butt over there at the last place. I said, this time I'm not going to make calls. I'm not going to go running around looking for tracks. I'm going to leave them alone. I'm going to leave them alone. If they show up here, I'm going to leave them alone. Well, that didn't work out because they did show up here, not the same ones, I'm sure, but they did show up, and I just gave myself away because when I would see I Shine, I got excited. When I'd hear a vocal, I get excited. You know, I couldn't. It's like I don't have this poker face, and so they could pick up on me and know that I knew what they were. So, but I did try to be more, and I still do, try not to do too many calls and not get out in there and really, although I'm going to probably change that. They've had enough grace. Anyway,
like over 10 years.
You know, I'm leaving them alone basically, or have been, but it never did fool them. The one thing that was different was where I was at. Whenever I would smell one, they smelled like urine. Here they had the zoo animal smell, much stronger smell that I could smell from a greater distance, and it would tell me they were in the area, and then I could pretty much feel where they were at by feeling them looking at me. I could feel their eyes watching me, and so you know how they say you could be in a classroom and you know when somebody's looking at you, you could feel them looking at you. Well, I've always been one of those people that could do that, and I could do that with them too. So anyway, yeah.
I always
that
say it feels
summer,
squatchy here.
yeah, it feels squatchy, yes. Well, that summer, I was on the phone. I don't know what the deal is about me being on the phone. I guess I talk loud. I don't know. But I was on the phone, and at that time we had a really small little wooden porch. The light, the way it was hung, it only shines light on the porch and around the edge of it. And everything else was dark away from the porch. Well, I was on the phone, and about, 10 feet away is a hedge. And I saw these two big eyes above this hedge. And they were probably about 4 inches apart, and they were about the size of a silver dollar, and they're just glowing. And they're, above that hedge, probably 6 foot, 7 foot tall. And it's not that far away from me. And the first thing I said was, "You're too close." And I turned around and went in the house. And it was like, I know, it was so weird. I don't know why I did that. But instead of, it was just like, "You're too close." Well, that was the same bush that Lauren was growled at. And, of course, she's upset with me because I never told her about the eyes. That, she was growled at from that same hedge. And during the time that we've been here, we've seen movement, eye shine, things like that. But it wasn't until, and I'm just guessing, it was like about 2007, 2008, may have been 2006. I don't know. It was, but it was in December. And it was at around noon, and we were working on the roof. Hurricane Rita had come in and tore our roof up. So we were replacing the roof, and my husband was scraping the roof off, and I was loading up all the old shingles in a wheelbarrow and taking them down to the pond. Well, I took several wheelbarrows down there, and nothing happened. Well, then I went down there this one time, and the first thing I do is smell the zoo animal. And I said, "Whoa, that's Squatch." And about the time I smelled that zoo animal, I said, "Where is it?" And I could feel it. And I zoned right in. I just looked right at it. So I stood there holding the wheelbarrow, just looking at him, and he was standing there. And I don't know if everyone out there is on my Facebook, but I posted a picture of one that I found that looked very, very similar to him. He was about 10 foot, 9 or 10 foot. He was built like an ape. He had the sloped shoulders, the long arms. He was bulky. He had long hair, and it was brown and silver. And his face was black, but it was very gorilla-like, I guess, but more human. It's hard to explain. The sun was directly overhead, so all I could see was the darkness where his eyes were. I couldn't see his eyes. It was just in shadow because the sun was right on his brow. But I could see he had a dark face and a dark chest, and his hands were dark. Anyway, we stood there probably 10 seconds just looking at each other. And I had the calmest feeling. It was like I didn't even get excited. It was bizarre because every other time I've ever had a sighting, I just got super excited. I mean, it just, but this time it was just, I just looked at him and he looked at me, and then he just kind of stepped sideways and went behind the tree. I went ahead and dumped the wheelbarrow and came back up, and I told my husband, guess what I saw? And he said, you saw Bigfoot. And I said, how'd you know? And he said, well, I've been seeing something big and gray moving around there. And I said, and you let me go down there? What is wrong with you? It could have been a bear. He goes, we don't have bear here. He goes, I figured that's what it was. So anyway, yeah, it was just incredible because that's the first time I've really got to look at their face. And the first time I really got to look at one, because, you know, most sightings are seconds. And you're sure what it is you're looking at, but you don't get that opportunity to really study it. And I got about 10 seconds to study this one. So I was able to just really kind of look him over. And I just felt very calm and not in danger at all. It was amazing. It was an amazing experience. But anyway, years went by before I ever saw him again. And I saw him again on August 29th, 2010. And I saw him again, and that was the last time I ever saw him. And it's been 9 years. I think he was old, and I think he was a grandpa. And I think he's probably passed on or went somewhere else. I've never seen him since. So, I don't know. But anyway, that's pretty much all I have to say, except that I did have one other sighting at Chickasha National, what is the name of that place, Lauren? Chickasha, where we went that one time. It's in Oklahoma. It's up near Sulphur. We were all camped out there, and that one night we were going down the trails by the nature center, and we were getting hit with infrasound pretty hard. There were 3 of us. Mm-hmm. So the gentleman and lady that were with me, they moved ahead of me and they were laughing and joking as they were trying to push into that infrasound. It was just like a wall. I'm not kidding. It was just like a wall. So they were just like, take one step, and then she would take a step, and then he would take a step, and they were just making a joke of it, really, because I guess we've been experiencing infrasound for years, you know. So anyway, I'm standing there, and all the time that they're doing this, they're on the rock. I can hear stuff moving. Of course, this place is loaded up with armadillos, we have discovered. So I think that maybe it was armadillos I was hearing moving. I don't know. But it sounded like something coming right towards us. And so I was a little on edge there anyway. So I'm standing there, and I hear on my right side, right by my head, I hear a stomach turn over in the dark. And it's right by my head. I know if I reached out, I would have touched him. And I was so freaked out by that because I thought, did I just hear what I heard? And then I heard it again. And I'm like, oh, my God, that's what I think it is. And I just turned around, and my legs were like spaghetti. And I know I was telling this story, but I am not kidding. My legs had no bones in them. I could not hardly walk.
If you were a real researcher, then you should have just turned around and you could have just turned around, grabbed a handful of hair, and we would have had DNA evidence. But no.
Another one of those what if. What if?
You're
but
so
I
selfish.
Just wanted, I'm thinking I'm in Oklahoma. I've heard stories about how they rape women and all this kind of stuff, in Oklahoma.
Those stories.
Yeah, those stories. And I said, well, at this particular moment, I might believe that stuff, but I was just ready to get out of there. And I know I probably looked like a space alien walking out of there. I could not move myself fast enough, and I left them. I left those two people. I mean, we always had a saying, we're all on our own. Everybody's on their own. If something happens, you're on your own. And that's the way, that's exactly, I took that seriously. I left them in there. And a little while later, they come out there and go, where'd you go? And I said, well, and I told them, they go, and you didn't tell us? And I'm like, no. I just got out of there. On the last day that we were there, it was on a Monday, and that whole campground had cleared out. Everyone had left. I think we were probably, us and maybe one other campsite, were the only ones there in the park. And I'm thinking we already had the tents down and everything. I don't know. We were just still kind of milling around. You know how you do right before you leave. Everybody's, talking and stuff like that. Well, that's what we were doing. And I was looking towards the bathrooms, and I saw something move, and I said, oh, there's still somebody here. Well, then I saw this black figure run from one tree to the next tree. And I said, what in the world? And then it ran from that tree to another tree. And I said, that's a squatch. It looked like human size, and it was solid black. And I'm thinking, I said, that's a juvenile. That's got to be a juvenile. But, of course, it was probably, 300 yards away. So, anyway, I saw it go behind this tree right next to the bathroom. So here I go, man. I got my eye on that tree, and I watched that tree the whole time I'm walking, stumbling over stuff because I wouldn't take my eye off that tree. I said, when I get to that tree, I'm going to look around it, and he'll be there. And when I got there, he was not there. And then across the road, I saw some grass moving as he moved on off. And I'm like, you little shit. I couldn't believe he hid behind that tree, and then he stayed behind that tree as he crossed the road and went into the grass. It's some real tall grass right there and woods, and he just disappeared into it. That was crazy. That was crazy.
So don't we have some other clips on here to play?
Yes. One is called Unknown. It was a recording that I did in probably the first year that I was recording, and I heard it. And I said, oh, please let me have recorded that. Please, please, please. And I did. And anyway, no one knew what it was. Nobody's ever heard anything like that. Nobody knew what it was. And I even sent it off to the Center of Bioacoustics down in Houston, and they analyzed it. And they couldn't figure out what it was. They said it has a fox-like sound, but it's not a fox. So anyway, it's still to this day, no one knows what it is. But I've heard it twice. I heard it in the same place twice, but it was several years between hearing it the first time and recording it and hearing it again. But it was exactly the same sound. So go ahead and play it.
All right. Okay, so I'm going to play it once, wait, play it again, and then we'll discuss. I'm going to mute you out while I play it so that you can cough and...
Please do. Thank you.
Drink your tea.
Clear out here.
All right, I'm going to play it now. All right, what do you think? You want to hear it one more time?
No. But Dustin, what do you think of that?
I haven't heard anything like that. But for a second, it kind of sounded like a woman, but then it kind of drowned out a little bit more. It could have been, I don't know. Could be close to an elk, maybe.
Well, we don't have elk in East Texas, so.
Yeah.
Oh.
I'm not quite sure what that would be. We've had something similar out in our area, but it's a lot deeper than that was. So I'm not too sure. Maybe female, a little one.
I don't know.
And they said it wasn't a fox?
Nope. They said it didn't have the same, you know how they'll put stuff on and it'll show a graph? Well, it wasn't in the same, it was too high. They said it was too high to be a fox. So, and it just wasn't in the same decibel range as a fox. They didn't know what it was, and they were asking me all kinds of questions, like where did it come from, what is it, blah, 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 you know. Was it a person doing it? And I don't know if anybody that would have been doing that at 11 o'clock at night. It was very strange. Yeah. And that is my coup de grace recording right there. That is one that I've recorded other things. Like there was one place we thought something was behind our car chanting at us. And then when I've gone back now and listened to it, I realized it was a frog. It was a weird sounding frog, but it was a frog. There, been other things that when I first started, it was like I didn't know a lot of the weird sounds out there. Like I didn't know what blue herons sounded like when they got to clacking, and I would hear that. I recorded that. And I'm like, what in the world is that? Well, then some guy on the internet said, oh, that's blue herons. And I went and looked, and sure enough, it's blue herons. So I learned, you know what your coyotes sound like, your owls and all that, but sometimes you get just weird animals that you don't hear all the time, and you don't know what they are, and you're not saying they're a Bigfoot, but you're just trying to identify them. Right. Well, in the case of this recording, I've yet to still identify it. I don't know what made that sound. I would like to think I did catch a Bigfoot, or maybe even a female, I don't know. I don't know. On this next recording, Oh My God, Close, the reason why I say this, I named it that, was because it sounded off right in front of me. I was in the pitch dark, and I was standing on a cliff, basically, and then the hill kind of went down and went into river bottom, and it was on the east fork of the Angelina River up near Rusk County, and I had gotten roared at while I was setting up my equipment, which made me really mad because it was still daylight, and I was setting up my equipment, and I heard this huge roar come from down at the river, and I'm like, "Dig gum! I haven't even got this thing turned on." And so I was so mad because I've never.
I could picture you being like, "Can you just hold on to that for like just a minute, Just hold
no
on.
Kidding.
2 minutes.
I've never captured a roar. There's been people out there been so blessed to capture a roar, but I've never captured one. I want one so bad, I'll tell you. And a mountain lion doing their caterwauling. I would love to get that too. But anyway, he roared, and I said, "That's honest God, Bigfoot right there." Well, it got dark, and these coyotes sounded off right underneath me. They were so close. And what I had found is that there is the deep howls, and there are a lot of people out there that think that they come from two schools. Some think it's a Sasquatch doing the deep howl, and some think it's a coyote doing it. Well, whatever was doing this, whoever has this school of thought, whatever was doing it, it was the same level. The deep howls at the beginning were the same level as the coyote sounds that follow it. So whether it's Sasquatch first and coyotes later or all coyotes, I don't know. But I just wanted to say there are a lot of people out there that will disagree that it's all coyotes. Or they'll disagree and say it is all coyotes. It's not. There's no Bigfoot in there, you know. So I'm going to let y'all play it, and I'm going to let the people out there decide what they think. So.
Okay. I don't know which one I'm supposed to play. Okay. I'm going to play it now.
Oh, my God.
Ready? Mm-hmm. I didn't label them, woman. I already told you that. We are playing audio clip roulette right now, and hopefully this is the one you're talking about. I did not follow instructions. God. Okay, I'm a rebel. Okay, rebel. Okay, I'm going to play it. Shush.
Now, there was a dog there. I will say that. Now I had to clean my pants out because that was like right on top of me. Is it still playing? I think it is.
It is. I'll stop it.
Yeah.
I mean, it sounds like, oh, that's just a bunch of coyotes when you listen over audio, but being there, okay, to me those sound, I know they're coyotes, but it sounds like hyenas, and it freaks me out. So being in the dark and listening to that, I would have just been freaking out because it just, it sounds like hyenas or jackals or something, and gross. I just,
There was a couple in there that did sound. There was a couple in there that did sound a little deeper than all the rest, especially that really first loud howl. It sounded different than the rest.
It felt closer too. That one felt closer because I could feel it in my chest. That one felt closer than the rest of them, but they don't all just line up in a row either out there. So I don't know. And there is just it you know, it just depends on who you talk to. Someone else will put that through their analysis and say, oh, that one particular deep one was a squatch, you know. And then somebody else will say, oh, no, that was all coyotes. That was all coyotes, you know. So I don't know. I just can't say, but I just do know that I like to have wet my pants because I thought they were coming up that hill right after me, you know, because I was just standing out there in the dark by myself, and that was the same place where I had the bionic ear hanging from a tree, and this hog comes up, it's chewing around on the bionic ear, and I'm listening to this, and I'm going, please don't eat my mic. Like, I know he didn't eat it, but it was like as I'm listening to the recording, I'm thinking, please don't eat my mic. Oh, he didn't know. It was a pretty good-sized hog that could reach that and bump it around, you know. That's yeah. So
that, I mean, you've got, I mean, and so I just want everyone to know she picked three good recordings out of countless good recordings. I mean, so she has been doing this for so long, and she has so many more amazing stories and so many more recordings. So feel free to go back into our archives and find her other shows that we've done with her as a guest and listen to other accounts that she's given, also other audio that she's given. And then hopefully we will have her back on several months from now, and she'll have a whole new slew of experiences to share with us.
I hope I do too. You know, I've learned so much, and just listening to other people. So I really want to get out there and try it. I am excited about it, but at the same time, I'm a little, because I've never really tried any of the things. You know, gifting stations, the where they lay the sticks out and see if anybody moves them. That kind of thing, you know, just trying different things with game cameras. There's so many different things that I want to try, but mainly I am going to be going on a lot of outings. So just really am looking forward to that. But it's been an adventure. It has truly been an adventure in my life. I've had lots of hobbies in my life, but I've never had anything that I stuck with as long as I've stuck with this, because I never lose the passion for it, ever. It's always there. And sometimes I feel like, even though it has been 9 years since I've seen one, and I don't hear stuff out here that much, you know. It's like kind of like a passing through kind of place for them. But and sometimes I think, well, my time is over with. I'm never going to have anything else happen. I'm never going to see another one. I'm never going to get another good recording. I'm never, but until I try. And that's what I want to say to people, is you really got to get out there and find you a place that you go to every day or every other day or 3 or 4 times a week. You've got to constantly be out there, because that's the only way that you're going to see one. You're not going to see one. Well, I don't know. I did it. Chickasha, that was a freak of nature thing. But you really aren't going to see one just randomly, but then people do all the time. So, but getting out there is the most important thing.
Yeah, you're not going to see, well, unless you're Laurie Dyer Hood, you're not going to see one just from sitting on your porch. So
no,
get out there and get in the woods.
Oh
my gosh. Well,
yeah, it was like the last time.
We have more than enjoyed having you on tonight. Thank you for starting out the Nite Callers reboot with a bang. We appreciate it so much. We appreciate all that you've done for this show, and we are both honored to carry on your legacy.
I'm not gonna lie, everybody listening, I'm a little bit emotional. Not gonna lie.
Cry.
I can't help
cry.
It's a little emotional for me letting go, okay, but I know that we have great things to bring this show, and thank you again, Laurie, Mom, for everything that you've done.
Was I a very good guest? I just want to know now, was I a very good guest?
You were the best guest I've ever had.
Now, I like that. But I'm going to tell you what, you're going to have some really good ones after me. Way better. Way better. At least I won't be coughing. Yeah.
Well, I mean, stuff happens. But we really, I do appreciate you, because you guys, listeners, listen. I had hell getting this woman to come on the show tonight. She was like, no. You need somebody famous. You need somebody that has, experiences, somebody that has something interesting to listen to. I'm not interesting. So if y'all ever think that Laurie is full of herself, I want to let y'all know right now. Okay, I have to continually tell her how amazing she is and how great of a researcher she is. She has these experiences that are just
a bit, right?
No, I'm not. It's my mom, but that's fine. But she has these amazing experiences. Like, I have been doing this almost my whole life, and I've never had a sighting. I would give anything to have like the most minimum of her sightings, and to be able to experience everything that she has. And so I just, I really appreciate you coming on the show.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for having me as your first guest on y'all's special new show, because I really think y'all's show's going to be awesome. I feel that, and
thank you.
It is going to take off, and y'all are going to really do good. And I wish
I thought you said in your buns. I was like, well, thank you for filling this in your buns. Your bones. Well, thank you for helping me break Dustin in easy tonight, Just, we'll ease him in. Didn't want to start him out with, the more difficult guests,
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Sometimes you'll get a guest on there. It's like pulling teeth. They have like single-word answers, like yes, no.
Mm-hmm. It's rough. It's rough.
Yes,
I did warn him before he agreed. I said, this is a thing. I said it can get kind of hard sometimes to interview people. We have guests on, just future guests out there, the ones that are like, oh, well, I feel like I talk the whole time. Please do. We don't mind when you talk the entire time. It's absolutely fine. It's when you're giving one-word answers, and we have to, that's just, it's so hard. But no, you were a great guest.
And now that it's you two, maybe at least I won't be there interrupting with my laggy phone where I can just pop down on top of people.
I would like to clarify. So Laurie, her phone signal is not great where she is, and so if you ever have listened to any of our other shows, she's not rude. She doesn't interrupt people for the fun of it. It's her phone lags, so she thinks they're done, and she will start talking, and it does that. So just FYI, go ahead and clear that up since she's off the air now officially. She's not rude. She's just, blame AT&T. They suck. Okay.
But now you guys can have a professional show where nobody's getting stepped on, and I think it's going to be amazing. Yeah. Yeah, it's going to be amazing.
Well, Dustin's on the show, so I'm not sure how professional we're going to actually be, but we'll try.
Yeah.
But thank you for having me.
You can tell he's nervous because he's not firing back at me. Yeah. He'd be coming back at me if he wasn't nervous.
Hey, I'm being nice.
Oh,
being professional.
Yeah. Well, you don't know how to be nice, so try again.
We'll see.
Okay. Well, thank you, Laurie, for coming on the show tonight and being our first show back, easing us into it. Thank you, Dustin, for agreeing to do this with me. You already signed the contract in blood. You can't back out, so sorry about that.
Yeah, I know.
That's the terms. And everyone, we are going to be posting our shows on YouTube after the show is done. Within the next day, it will be posted to YouTube, so all of our YouTube listeners, you can go listen there. We are also on iTunes and Stitcher. And then, of course, check us out on Facebook for any updates on our new shows coming up and new guests. We have an entire roster of guests for y'all ready to go. So just check our Facebook for newly scheduled shows. Check our YouTube if you want to listen in. And we will catch y'all next time.
Good night, everybody. Be the last time I get
Laurie.
to say that. Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Good night.